What is going on, guys? Liretto here, and welcome to the new channel. As you guys can see, for today's video, we're going to be going over the predictions for the 2025 NBA Western Conference standings. And I might have to say, this might be one of the toughest years possible to predict, because there's legitimately about 13 teams in this conference that are actually looking to compete. Now, obviously, teams like the Warriors, the Suns, the Lakers, they haven't had the most success recently, finishing in the lower half of the standings. But there's still teams that are looking to win a championship despite all the odds. And then you have teams like the Memphis Grizzlies, who they had 4 players coming back from injury, including John Morant, Desmond Bane, just a crazy roster, and who knows where they are going to place. So today, though, we are going to be trying to place all these 15 teams in order and seeing how many we do get right at the end of the season. So of course, with this being the first video on the channel, though, if you do enjoy this type of content, definitely subscribe. My goal is to upload every single day, and basketball has always been something that I've just been so passionate about, and I've been watching for over 20 years, and I could probably name every single player in the league. It's getting kind of bad, so I figured why not put the talent into something that, can be an enjoyment for others to listen to. And let's just start off this list in 15th. With them releasing Paul George and Russell Westbrook, we have none other than the Los Angeles Clippers in last place. I'm only playing, man. Of course, we have the Portland Trail Blazers. I think this team was pretty much a consensus across everybody's videos on YouTube when I looked up playoff predictions, and that is because they're one of the few teams truly in a rebuild. But it's not to say that I don't like their roster. They picked up Deni Avdija in the offseason. I think he's going to be an amazing pickup this season with him handling the ball a little bit more. I think he's going to definitely up his value and show people that he's actually a really, really solid NBA player. They also picked up Donovan Clingan in the draft, and that actually allows them to have 3 centers on the roster. Of course, Robert Williams is always injured, but I think they could definitely get a decent flip if they were to trade him to a team like the Pelicans, who's been desperate for a center. The roster, I think, definitely has a lot of good assets. Jeremy Grant, of course. Let's move on to 14th. We have the Utah Jazz, and I think the Utah Jazz are miles better than the Portland Trail Blazers. And of course, with Lauri Markkanen signing his extension on August 7th, it means that he can't be traded for this entire season, so he's going to remain on the roster. And I think him alone, he can always just have some crazy nights where he does drop 35 plus and win a couple games. But I think the Western Conference is just so stacked that these 2 teams are the for sure bottom 2 in my opinion. And now let's move into where it gets super difficult. It pains me to put this team here, it truly does, just because they had an amazing draft. Of course, they had a good offseason as well with some good pickups, some culture setters. And they have a superstar in the making, if not a superstar already, in Victor Wembanyama. And of course, we have the San Antonio Spurs, and it kills me to put them this low. I would not be shocked if they are a top 10 seed just because their offseason was amazing. Of course, they picked up Stephon Castle, Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, just an amazing offseason. And with that vet leadership with Victor Wembanyama, a player who cares about the game more than anyone. You saw how much he was crying at the Olympics. I could definitely see this roster doing very well, but they are still a very young team in the rebuild. And, I think just 1 season away is what they are. Look at the teams that they would have to be better than. I wouldn't be shocked if they are better than the team that I have above them, which is the Golden State Warriors. Now, the Golden State Warriors, like the Spurs, are very top heavy, but I think the only difference with them, of course, is the experience of 4 rings from Stephen Curry. They lost Klay Thompson, but they did pick up Buddy Hield. But I just don't know if Buddy Hield is going to fill the void that Klay left. I know obviously Klay wasn't at the peak of his powers, but he was still somebody that knew the system well, and Buddy Hield has never really fit into a system other than, just being an elite catch and shoot player. It's not going to fill the void that Klay left, and that's why I have the Warriors, even with Stephen Curry, who I think is the 2nd best point guard in the entire league behind Luka. I have them ranked number 12. It's crazy, man. At number 11, again, this is so difficult. If you guys try to make a list, you guys will truly see how difficult this season is to predict. But we have the Los Angeles Clippers. Like I said in the beginning, with them losing Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and Kawhi's injury history, as well as James Harden's injury history kind of lately, I just don't know how well this team is going to do. Now, of course, they do have the talent to push towards like a top 8 seed, but I think it's just going to be difficult, and I think the teams above them are just simply better. Of course, so with the Clippers having the new arena, I wonder if that will give them a morale boost that they need. The Intuit Dome looks like one of the best stadiums in the entire league now. And with them finally having their own arena and not sharing it with the Lakers, I think maybe the pride could be a little bit higher to where the fans get behind them a little bit more, and they finally don't feel like the Lakers' little brother. So I'm rooting for the Clippers, man. Hopefully they do good. James Harden is my favorite player of all time, so I would like to see them do good, but I do have them at the 11th position. Probably a controversial pick because I know they range from 1 to 13, but I have the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, the Lakers are always the toughest team to predict just because of their top-end talent, but I feel like for the past 3 or 4 seasons now, everybody has been predicting them and the Suns to be a top 5 seed, and I've always been somebody who's been a little bit pessimistic. I like to see results before I just go off roster, and the results just haven't been there. Of course, they did pick up Dalton Connect. I guess we could say Bronny James too, but maybe the morale boost is there, the chemistry is a little bit higher. But yeah, I still have the Lakers super low, and it sucks because AD had one of his best seasons last year, super healthy. I think he played 70 plus games, and they were still a play-in team. So I think the Western Conference is just too stacked. LeBron James is on the back end of his career, still one of the top 5 players in the league, possibly maybe top 10 for sure. But I still have the Lakers in at number 10. Now at number 9, with an amazing pickup, I think an underrated pickup for what they gave up, we have the Sacramento Kings with the addition of DeMar DeRozan. And I think DeMar DeRozan, he's still a bona fide scorer, a bona fide bucket in the league. And I think Sacramento is a sneaky team that can definitely sneak into the top 5 if they play well. Moving on quickly to number 8, a completely stacked team that I think, kind of like the Clippers, does rely on health issues. We have the Pelicans. Picking up DeJounte Murray, I think one of the perfect pickups they had. I think they're one center away from being a top 5 seed. And I think, again, they're just such a dangerous team to verse in the playoffs. I did predict them to get swept last year, so I was right on that. But I think with DeJounte Murray and just that defensive backcourt right there, and then, of course, you still have Ingram and Zion, of course. I think, again, they're just a dangerous team that this year, if they were to match up against OKC, I think it would be like a 6-game series, maybe 7. And once it goes 7, anybody could win. So I definitely think they're a team to look out for. Now, moving on to number 7. You guys already can tell what team I'm a fan of, but I just want to let you know we on that shit this year, man. We got the Houston Rockets. Now, before you dislike or click off the video, hear me out. So we were an even team, a 500 team last year, and of course, Dylan Brooks and Tari Eason were injured for majority of the season. We also had Şengün going down, and of course, that is when we went on a huge win streak with Jalen Green, tapping into his Michael Jordan bag for a year. I think he had 3 kids and probably 500 points in 1 month. But I think this team is sneakily underrated, and I think Reed Sheppard is the consensus so far favorite to win Rookie of the Year. Maybe not win Rookie of the Year, but the best rookie. We saw what he was doing in Summer League, absolutely dominating on efficient scoring. And I think if Dylan Brooks can stay healthy, Tari Eason coming back, Şengün in the roster as well, I think this team is like 10 players deep. And, we were super young last year. I think we're only going to get better. Of course, the Western Conference is super stacked. So I wouldn't be shocked if we did miss the playoffs again. But I think with just the trajectory that we're on, I think this team is hungry to have a playoff rebirth. And I truly do believe that they will be like a top 9 seed in the Western Conference. Now, moving on to another controversial team that's very tough to place, we have the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, some people are adamant that this team is a top 3 seed regardless. But I just kind of need to see it again, with them having injuries last season and them, of course, finishing in 13th. John Morant with the suspension and then coming back and, instantly turning up only to get injured. I think this team is sneaky and they could definitely finish in the top 3 again. But, I just got to see it. They're a deep roster, though. John Morant, Desmond Bane. They got Marcus Smart now, who might be coming off the bench unless Desmond Bane wants to run the small forward. But they also did pick up the new center in Zach Edey. And I think Zach Edey, he doesn't really fit the play style of the Grizzlies, but I think he's definitely going to help out because Jaren Jackson Jr., the one thing he lacks is his rebounding. If he could just work on his rebounding, he would be such an elite center. But with the lack of rebounding, I think Zach Edey is definitely going to help. And John Morant is somebody who, just a slithery finisher. If y'all play 2K, y'all know what I'm talking about. He can get to the basket even if the paint is clogged. And I think this team's going to be dangerous, man. It's just how well they get off to a start. I think the start is the most important thing for them. Now, moving on to the top 5 in the Western Conference. Again, comment down below your top 5. I'm curious to see who you guys think will finish in the top 5. But for me, at number 5, we have the Phoenix Suns. Now, kind of like I said with the Lakers, the Phoenix Suns, people always project them to be higher. I, of course, last year as well predicted the Timberwolves to just smash the Suns. I just didn't see anything that the Suns did last year to where I think it would translate to them beating the Timberwolves. And, of course, they got swept. However, I think with them picking up Tyus Jones and Monte Morris, those 2 point guards right there are going to facilitate for the bucket getters, and I think it's going to make such a difference in the entire roster. I think Devin Booker can just go back to his natural ability, of which is just scoring the basketball. And we saw what he was doing with the Olympics, clamping up the opponent's best players. Of course, it is the Olympics, a little bit different than the NBA, but I think if that mindset can translate, which it will, I think this team could be dangerous. I think Durant could just, continue to be the efficient bucket getter he is. And I think if Devin Booker really buys into like that 3-and-D role, even though obviously I think he's the best shooting guard in the entire league, right there with Anthony Edwards, I think if he plays into that role of a 3-and-D guard, he can just propel this team into the top 5 easily. Now, speaking of talent, we have the stacked Timberwolves. Now, obviously Anthony Edwards, he really is a superstar, a bona fide superstar. He went into Team USA saying, I'm the main option, and he played like it, man. He really did. Of course, Curry turned up at the end, but Anthony Edwards was somebody that just got the team going instantly, was getting his buckets, and I think he's just going to take that confidence into the next season. Of course, Naz Reid was playing better than Karl Anthony Towns at times in the playoffs. So this team is deep. You got Rudy Gobert, of course, locking down the defense. And yeah, their defense is always going to be there. And teams with good defense, I'm always going to trust to be consistent. And I think the Timberwolves are definitely the epitome of just a good, solid roster, from offense to the defense, everything. You got it all. Now, moving on to a team that, again, a lot of people had in various positions when I was looking on YouTube. Some people had them top 3. Some people had them in the play-in. But we have the Dallas Mavericks. Now, of course, with them picking up Klay Thompson, and I think he's just going to unlock a whole nother level of the offense for Luka and Kyrie. Now, of course, their scoring in the playoffs were crazy last year, but I think the one thing that Klay Thompson offers that a lot of other players on their roster just didn't is moving off the ball. Now, Kyrie and Luka, they do so much ISO work, and even Kyrie was clamping up last year in the playoffs as best as he could. But I think Klay Thompson just moving off the ball, using his energy to just tire out defenses, create confusion, and then allow switching, maybe getting a bad defender on Luka, I think it's just going to open up this offense. And I was debating going on a super hot take and just putting them number 1, but I wanted to stay a little bit less crazy and a little bit more what I truly believe, even if it's boring. But yeah, I kept the Mavericks at number 3, but I wouldn't be shocked, and I'm rooting for them to finish the number 1 seed because they are one of my favorite teams to watch. Kyrie he's always been one of my favorite players, man. Luka as well. And yeah, this team's going to be so fun to watch. Finally, getting into the top 2. Do we have the Nuggets number 1, or do we have OKC like everybody else? Surprisingly, I got OKC number 2, which means I have the Denver Nuggets, although they lost KCP, in the number 1 spot for the Western Conference. Now, I guess we could just talk about both these teams. OKC is such a deep roster. They're the youngest team in the league last year. And of course, if they finish number 1, I would not be shocked because their roster is just amazing. Williams is the best pull-up jump shooter in the entire league. And then of course with Chet just anchoring the defense, that team is just nasty. They got so much shooters. Shai Gilgeous Alexander, obviously MVP candidate. I kind of feel like he should have won last year, but I'm not mad at Jokic winning it all. But I actually had Shai winning it. They were the number 1 seed, even though they had like the same record. Nuggets weren't number 1. Shai was number 1, and he carried that team above all expectations. And yeah, they're going to be a dangerous roster. I think this year they're going to have a little bit more experience. They're going to feel a little bit calmer in the playoffs, know what it's like to lose. And I think they're going to be, I think they are the second best team truly in the Western Conference. Now the Denver Nuggets though, although they lost KCP, man, I don't doubt Jokic anymore. After what I saw he was doing in the Olympics, just the way he can just control the entire offense, of course. I still got this team number 1, man. Just Jamal Murray, if he can just play better. I did see the way he was playing, and it was kind of shaky, but I think Jokic alone, they're going to be an amazing regular season team. And I think the consistency of Jokic, just like Shai, they're going to be the number 1 seed. I got the Denver Nuggets still, and I don't even like the Nuggets, but the talent's there, man. So that is my 2025 NBA predictions right there for the Western Conference. Definitely leave a comment down below what you guys think of my predictions. Did I drop the ball? Did I get it spot on? What hot takes do you guys have? Could you guys see the Mavericks being number 1? Could you see the Suns being number 1? Something crazy like that. But yeah, other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. The Eastern Conference predictions will be out tomorrow, so definitely stay tuned for that. It's going to be a hell of a lot easier, I'll tell you that much, because this Western Conference is stacked. Other than that, though, we will have early award predictions and a whole bunch of other videos, whether it's like higher or lower, stuff like that. And yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy this first video. It's been Liretto. I appreciate y'all for watching. I'm out. Peace.